Welcome to Human Frequency Special Report. In the city of Alhambra, there is a property with 229 mature trees, and this property is being rezoned, and this is all another Agenda 21 related tragedy in the greater Los Angeles area. Our friend and colleague Ann Maurer introduced us to the topic as she's been working with residents in the area to try and save the trees. Well, we're going to talk all about how they've been going about it and unfortunately why these methods don't work. There have been some little pieces of good news along the way, but here's the story. The Sunnyview Care Center is an old property in Alhambra. It has 229 beautiful mature trees. Essentially, this is an urban forest. It gives oxygen and greenery and shade to a neighborhood.
These are old growth trees. They've been here for a long time.
And this is an 11-acre parcel. So this is a very large piece of land, and it's been a care center for senior citizens. The new owner of the property has gone to the city council to get a zoning change, which is very easy for developers to get now because Agenda 21 is taking over. And Agenda 21 is all about high density stack and pack, removing greenery. In Alhambra, unfortunately, it means replacing old growth trees with skinny palm trees that don't provide any shade at all, nor do they provide any oxygen. And the owner of the property was granted this zoning change. All trees on the property were going to be destroyed except for 2. So city council recently was deciding on the fate of 227 trees. And on September 11th, they had a hearing, and residents went before the city council to beg these government actors to stop this from happening. And what ended up happening was actually pretty fortunate. On September 11th, the city council voted to save 40 more of the trees. That is about as good as we could have hoped for because we're dealing with a private property issue here. So the property owner can do whatever he wants.
Right. And we're also dealing with a parasitically infected city council board, as well as the developer himself. Because if you know anything about Agenda 21, you'll know that these developers are basically given carte blanche.
Not only are they given carte blanche, they're given taxpayer money. They're given misappropriated property taxes to destroy cities.
I feel like that falls under the umbrella of carte blanche.
Right. But it's worse than even just being allowed to do it. They're being endorsed. They're being funded.
The point is it's being artificially nudged in that direction.
Exactly.
And this is the point where it's going from nudged to pushed, violently pushed. So, yeah, this is just another example of what happens when out of control Agenda 21 is just people are just allowed to do whatever they want, and all of these old growth trees are going to be destroyed. But that's no surprise.
42 of them are saved, and I actually think this has something to do with the orgonite gifting that we did in Alhambra.
Yes, on September 7th, we went into Alhambra to this place. I believe it's at the corner of Valley and Marengo.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a little orgonite distribution there because, as you mentioned, Sharon, this is private property, and it's really none of our business and none of anyone else's business what this guy does with this property. So we just did what we felt was the best thing that we could have done, the only thing we could have done.
Right. So we had gifted the city of Alhambra some time ago. I think even 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a long time since we've done that area, but we didn't get everything. So we went back in and we made sure to get any cell towers in the city of Alhambra that we haven't yet gotten. The idea was to flip the energy in Alhambra, try to settle down the minds of the people because the activists are irate, they're angry, they're unsettled. And so we were trying to both settle down the population and also try to flip that energy so that the city council may see reason and may be able to tap into any tiny fragment of humanity left in them. And, I think it worked because we took care of Alhambra, and the intention was to save the trees. And we went to the property at the Sunnyview Care Center, and we gifted around that property in secret locations, of course. And
we have to.
It has to be secret. And the intention all along was, let's save some trees. Let's flip the energy, and hopefully the perimeter trees will be saved. We're really not sure which trees are going to be saved, but thank goodness more of them will make it. Hopefully by the time this whole debacle is over, they'll save more of them. But you just have to look at this like And it boggles the mind, the callousness of these developers that come into communities and just destroy.
And hey, 42 is better than 2.
It is.
Or 0.
That is better. But here's the problem. In the greater Los Angeles area, Agenda 21 is embraced, and people don't even know what they're inviting into their communities. Agenda 21 is a UN agenda to inventory and control everything on Earth. Of course, those of us who have filed the assumed name certificate cannot be identified. We cannot be inventoried or controlled.
More on that later.
Right. But most people don't know that. So what happens is liberal LA, we all love riding bikes. We love to walk to coffee. Okay, these are nice things people enjoy. Being able to walk or bike to coffee does not mean that we have to destroy everything in sight and put in stack and packs. Because what actually the liberal people want is they want to be living with nature. They want to enjoy nature. But what they're inviting into their community is quite the opposite. So by embracing this socialism, which is very, very prevalent in Los Angeles, and by embracing big government and government control of everything, they are inviting Agenda 21 in. And then once it's there, they're angry and pissed off, and they don't know what's going on. They don't understand why is the city street being changed to become completely incompatible with walking, biking, and driving. Why is this nice old building being destroyed for condos? But they don't understand why.
Why are all these decades-old trees being ripped out?
Mm-hmm. And Agenda 21 is false environmentalism, because one of the things Agenda 21 does is takes out trees. So that is just complete hypocrisy, especially because of their obsession with CO2, which trees absorb. So it's all complete hypocrisy. The way that these activists have been going about it, and I'm not intending to criticize anybody here, but it just doesn't work. You just can't beg these government actors for change. I'm amazed they even made as much headway as they did.
Well, we could argue that our work had something to do with that. But yes, the act of simply going up to these government actors and begging and pleading with them, it not only does it not work, but it's pretty degrading, I think, just on a human level.
Mm-hmm. It is degrading. I remember a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, this was before we even started making Organite, so it was probably at least 4 years ago, that Gabriel and I both went before City Council. We both spoke before the mayor at a hearing about metro fares. We are public transportation riders, or we were when we lived in Los Angeles, and they were going to raise the fares, of course. Do you think anything was going to stop that fare increase? Of course not. But we went to the hearing anyway and put in our 2 cents.
Once we got past the metal detectors.
Right. And it is a very degrading experience. But I went up before the mayor and I gave him my 2 cents. And of course, they didn't care. But when I did this, I was presenting my points in a logical way. I was explaining the economics of it to the riders, who were mostly poor. And I also was wearing a suit. And people thought that I was a lawyer afterwards.
And I was wearing a suit too, and people thought I was a lawyer as well. I mean, you gotta dress well to come to these things. You don't come in tattered clothes and Birkenstocks. It's ridiculous. So you gave your 2 cents. I followed you up and gave my 2 cents. And the long and short of it is we both left there 4 cents cheaper.
Right. And whatever fare we paid on Metro, which back then was $1.50 a ride, and now it's $1.75.
4 cents poorer, I meant.
4 cents poorer. Well, nevertheless, these activists who are trying to save the trees are not presenting themselves very well. And that's a big piece of criticism that I do have to offer here, because I don't like to be critical, but I have to be here.
We do.
Ditch the Bernie Sanders t-shirts, ditch the Birkenstocks, shave your armpits, please put on some deodorant, for God's sake.
Well, first of all, Bernie Sanders, I mean, come on, people. Oh.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry.
Organizer Melissa Michelson, who was...
I feel my forehead is just about to slam down and hit the desk any second, because it's just more of that socialism. It's these people who invite these things into their lives, and then when it's there, they sit around and wonder, why did this happen?
This is where education comes in. And I think it's very, very important, because liberal people and conservative people pretty much want the same thing.
Yeah.
And when we're divided into these two camps, which have nothing to do with anything, by the way, because politics is non-existent. It's all just business entities operating. The city is a business. The developer has a business. It's all business. So you can't really get in the middle of people's business. What you can do is you can learn how to protect yourself and your own business property. But you can't really get involved in business. And socialism is part of the delusion where this business called government helps us. It doesn't help us in that way.
No, socialism is all about meddling in other people's business.
It's about seizing business assets, in fact. Socialism is where you give up all control of your business assets. We are mistaken if we think we own anything. Nobody owns anything, whether we have capitalism or socialism. You don't own anything. You have business property. That legal name you have owns whatever you have. It's not you, though. But under socialism and under our current system of government, which is basically socialism,
more or less,
the government has control of everyone's legal name, therefore all of their assets. So when you are giving more and more control over to the government, you're just giving them more and more of your stuff and your freedom. And Melissa Michelson is the main organizer behind this movement to save the trees. And I know she's been working very hard, but it's misdirected. And she would be well advised to learn these freedom-related issues, such as filing the ANC and separating yourself from that and understanding that government is just business, and stop thinking that they're there to work with us. Their place is to provide a place to register the legal name and to provide courtrooms to settle disputes. And that's where the government begins and ends. And for those purposes, they're great. For saving trees, that's not going to happen. Melissa Michelson showed up to this meeting with City Council in a Bernie Sanders t-shirt. There are so many things wrong with this. You cannot show up to a meeting in a t-shirt. First off, wear business attire, present yourself in a serious way. Second off, going to the meeting isn't going to work anyway. And third, you're showing with that Bernie Sanders shirt that you have invited Agenda 21 in, and then when it came in, you said, hey, what are you doing here? You brought it here. This was your idea. You're a socialist.
Ignorance is no excuse.
Exactly. So I have so many critiques of this. I do think that the activists were trying to do something right, but we also have to kind of look at the community at large. When we look at these aerial views of the Sunnyview property, you could see the nice trees there, and I look around at the surrounding homes, I don't see any mature trees. The community should have been planting trees. All the private properties should have had trees.
And this is not unique to Alhambra by any stretch. If you look at just about any aerial view in the greater Los Angeles area, you'll see that. You'll see a park here and there, and then you'll see just large swaths of concrete jungle. And no one took the time decades ago to plant trees. They'd be fully grown by now.
It boggles my mind. And the palm tree thing, I don't understand why anyone would plant a palm tree, because they don't really provide any shade. They're not native to the area either. They happen to grow here, but they really don't serve a purpose. So there are many things going on here, and the ANC is really the only way to fight Agenda 21.
That's the assumed name certificate, by the way.
Right. We talk about it a lot, so now I've gotten to abbreviating it. But what everyone needs to do if they want Agenda 21 out of their lives is they need to register the legal name as a business entity as it was always intended.
Because when you're walking around thinking that first, middle, last name is you're just wrong right off the bat, and you're also out of compliance, and you're breaking the law to boot. So right out of the gate, you're just doing things wrong. And that first, middle, last name is your game piece. That's your top hat or your thimble for putting on that board and going around the squares. So the proper thing to do is to register that legal name. And the Business and Professions Code is quite clear on that. If anyone who uses a legal name to transact business for a profit must register that legal name with the Secretary of State.
But since most people don't, they're out of compliance. And because they're out of compliance, the state controls those entities, those legal names. So if you earn money and you think you're earning it and you think you're that name, the state says, okay, it's time for me to get my piece of that. And then they'll take it away in a tax. And there are all kinds of fees and fines and regulations for unregistered persons. But
And they can come up with them at will, whatever they want, how many they want, as many as they want, because they're in control of that legal name.
So when we invite socialism into our lives and we say we want the government to take care of us and we want those government benefits, we are submitting to Agenda 21. And guess what happens eventually? Mandatory vaccines, microchips in human beings, these are the things that happen when you don't register. So if you're worried about those things, once you register that legal name, everything is done in that name. The government cannot send something to you. They can only send it to that legal name. Your name is just the given name, in my case, Sharon Daphna. And when I write it out with the family name as well, it's Schloss, Sharon Daphna, but the government will not send it to that human being. They're going to send any notifications to Sharon Daphna Schloss. And if they say, Sharon Daphna Schloss, you need a mandatory vaccine. Guess what? Sharon Daphna Schloss is a dead entity. It's a non-living legal entity. You cannot vaccinate an entity.
It would be kind of funny to try and watch him do it.
I'd like to see them stick the needle into the paperwork, you know. So here's the deal. We really can't do anything about the trees in Alhambra because that's a private property issue. What we can do is we can start protecting ourselves. Now, here is something where something could be done. Here's an example of where it could be done. On Venice Boulevard, which we're going to do another episode about. I know I've promised this before.
It's coming. Don't worry. There's a stretch of Venice Boulevard between Inglewood and Beethoven that has become completely Agenda 21ized to death.
It's so stupid. Everyone in the neighborhood is appalled by it. They don't understand it. They're angry about it. There's signs everywhere.
There's signs way outside of that area, all the way in like Marina del Rey protesting it.
Right, but they don't know why. The LA liberals, they brought it upon themselves. They want big government. They want socialism, and this is what you get. Government is not your friend. Government is just there to help you register the legal name and settle disputes in court. That's it. In that way, they're my best friend.
That's it.
But that's
just
it.
Those two.
That's it. So anyway.
And if you think that it's anything more than that, well, you're going to end up with those annoying green bike lanes that everyone hates.
With a green box in front of the cars.
Oh, God.
So the bicyclists can get an attitude, right?
Yeah.
More on that later. But I just want to give a quick example of, on Venice Boulevard, somebody who is registered the legal name and has a business on that stretch could sue a city council member or the mayor for harming their business revenue. So,
or at least threaten it.
So what I'm getting at here is there are no living men and women in civic life. So going before the city council and begging them, it's sort of not only pointless, but it's almost just unlawful because...
Well, it's not almost unlawful. It is.
It is.
Because they're portraying that first, middle, last name, and that's false impersonation. You're breaking the law right at step one.
I had a little brainstorm. Besides on Venice Boulevard, there is a little brainstorm about Alhambra that may work. Somebody who has a property across from the Sunnyview Care Center could actually take the mayor to court if they were registered, okay, on behalf of their business entity because of a loss of property value due to the loss of trees. You can do it on an economic level only, on a business level only. There is no compassion or sympathy for human beings in commerce, and there never will be, so get it out of your mind that there can be. You cannot beg for compassion from the city council. They're a business. You have to just do everything on behalf of your business and take all emotion out of it. That's another place the activists went wrong. Too much emotion, too much anger, mean, nasty Facebook posts. Get yourself and your feelings out of it and get down to business.
It's all business.
It's all business.
There is nothing personal in this. It's only business.
So we went into Alhambra, and here's some little video that Ann Maurer took while we were there to show the Sunnyview Care Center, and these are our impressions of it. We are in Alhambra at the Sunnyview residential home, and this is a home for elderly people, and it's a very beautiful pastoral piece of land with beautiful old growth trees, and I just found out that they're going to destroy this entire thing.
Good decision, guys. We're outside the property here now. This is the church that was built in 1923, and Fortunately, they're managing to save this one.
So this is the one part that's not going to get destroyed because the Historical Society is having it saved somehow. I mean, you really can't tell a private property owner what to do, but...
Because then you become the Hysterical Society.
I know. You really can't, but all we can do is try to, I guess, sway the opinion, and hopefully they'll feel so horrible that the entire city of Alhambra is pissed off at them.
And if there's any humanity left within them, it will appeal to that little sliver that remains.
But this is the spiritual center. It's a church. This is the spiritual center of this property, and it's beautiful, like the rest of the place. And I'm hoping that by saving this core area, that will somehow bring more hope to the rest of the place and maybe influence some change and some preservation. What is this?
Oh my God. Uh-oh.
These are great trees. It's amazing to have this in the middle of Alhambra. And it's just sort of incidental.
If these trees weren't here right now, we would be frying.
Oh my God, I couldn't even be here right now without these trees. And you know, this is what makes it possible for people to walk and enjoy the neighborhood. This is all very parasitic to remove all this. They just want to make it impossible to live here. And that's what this is all about, is making it harder and harder on human beings to live on this earth. The trees are necessary for our survival. And they're necessary for the city. It's astounding that they want to take out these perimeter trees too, and I don't understand why the developers do that. I mean, that doesn't even affect the buildings.
I understand.
It's parasitic.
And they want to build right up to the sidewalk, and they're within the guidelines of all this Agenda 21 redevelopment.
Of course.
And none of that has been thought out in terms of any kind of arbor preservation or vegetation health, offering carbon sequestration and oxygen for the local residents. And this is what this whole fight is about.
Yeah, you know, they are so worried about CO2, why don't you plant a tree? Or at least don't destroy them. If they're really so worried about CO2, which is the stuff of life, by the way,
Yep,
and not the stuff of death like they say it is.
Total
but
hypocrisy.
if they're worried about it, then planting trees and preserving trees will take care of that. So it's just all, it is hypocrisy, exactly.
Bullshit.
See, it's a heart. And what's going on is they want to destroy the heart of Alhambra. That's what's going on here. All of this new development has nothing to do with the heart and soul of these communities.
And as Clint Eastwood's character said in A Fistful of Dollars, go for the heart, Ramon. Go for the heart or you'll never be able to stop me. Distracting them now. Oh. I was just trying to distract the security guards from you. They couldn't hear what I was saying, but I just wanted to give you time to bury your organite.
I hope they didn't see me.
Well, they didn't hear me. They probably just saw me flailing my arms around like a doofus. But
well,
anyway, a job well done.
I hope so. I hope that organite has stuck. But anyway, I think it did, because the effect was to save 40 trees. And so we can just only hope that it was the organite that did that. And hopefully that placement of organite will save a few more trees before this whole thing is over. Please check out our website, thekembo.com, to keep up with our work. We'd like to thank Ann Maurer for taking this footage and providing stills for this video. You can check out her website at envirotechnicalimaging.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more reports very soon.